Every golfer wants to hit the ball farther, but very few golfers know how to do this. My own search for distance as an amateur golfer led me to a dead end also. That was until I started looking into the physics of ball flight. As golfers, we're all limited by the speed that we can create. This chart here shows the linear relationship between speed and carry distance. That's the distance the ball flies in the air. As you can see, at 80 miles an hour, the top distance that you can carry the ball is about 190 yards. When we reach 100 miles an hour, which is quite quick for an amateur golfer, that goes up to 260 yards in the air. And then when we reach the speeds of the pros, 120 miles an hour, you have the potential to carry the ball 310 yards in the air. But these are based on optimal launch conditions of the ball. When we're discussing ball launch, there are three main parameters that create the distance. One is the launch angle. Put simply, that's the angle that the ball launches on, whether it launches at 8 degrees or 16 degrees. We also have the ball speed, which is a product of our club head speed and the strike quality that we produce predominantly. And lastly, we have the spin rate of the golf ball. Now, every golf ball has backspin, but if you have too much or too little spin, the ball won't carry the right distance or may not roll out as much. So those parameters again are smash factor, launch angle, and spin rate. I collected thousands of amateur shot data, and when we compare this to the optimal numbers, we see that amateurs launch the ball half as high as optimal with almost twice as much spin. Amateur golfers also lose almost around 15% energy efficiency as measured by a parameter called smash factor. Smash factor is a measurement of how fast the ball moves compared to the club head speed. For example, if a club came in at 100 miles an hour and the ball leaves at 150 miles an hour, the smash is 1.5. When you combine that lower smash, the higher spin rate and the lower launch of the average golfer, you're looking at about a 50-yard distance loss compared to optimal. And that's true for almost every swing speed. The next logical question we could ask is, what can we do to create the optimal launch conditions? And as this image shows here, it resides in impact. So there are three main factors that create the optimal launch. One is the contact point on the face. This is often overlooked by amateur golfers, believing they're already doing it. But if you strike the center of the face, that will go a long way into increasing the smash factor. We also have what's called the dynamic loft, which is the loft we present to impact, as indicated by the yellow arrow here. More loft equals a higher launch. But another factor to take into account is whether the club is moving up or down, as the red arrow suggests here. The difference between the club angle of attack and the dynamic loft is something we call spin loft. And again, if that spin loft is too high or too low, that can affect the launch parameters of the ball. If you create a good contact, you create a good angle of attack and proper dynamic loft at impact, then we can create those optimal launch conditions, resulting in maximum distance for our given swing speed. These Trackman results showed how I use this information in my own game. As you can see here, the before swings, the ball carried 217 yards. The total distance was around about 260 yards. But after changing just a few of these parameters myself, I managed to get my carry distance up to 272 yards, which resulted in a total distance of about 296 yards, with some of those balls creeping over 300 yards. Bear in mind, that's with a swing speed of just 102.5 miles an hour. That's not very quick compared to the tour players who are swinging on average 115 miles an hour. So I was really able to max out my distance for my given swing speed. And in terms of yards per mile per hour, this is more efficient than the most efficient guy on tour currently. In the strike plan, we look at how to create these optimal launch conditions, looking at where the low point needs to be in order to get that upward angle of attack, as well as working on your strike quality so that you can reduce spin, increase launch, and generate as much smash factor as possible. The strike plan is not just about drivers. We also look at how to create good face strike with irons, as well as how to create that crisp ball then turf contact that's so signature of the pros. In fact, that one thing is probably the biggest difference between pros and amateur golfers. If you're interested in finding out more about the strike plan, just click the image link below.